taking that data, implementing monitoring, dashboards, setting that
What's
data.
going on with the line? What's happening with my production facility? What do I need to do to impact?
No matter which industry you belong to, digital transformation is likely top of mind. At Emerson, we focus on how our solutions can empower your workforce and improve your bottom line. So today we are here at PAC Expo with industry experts to discuss the technology shift and Emerson's role. We're pleased to be joined by Mark Densley, Director of Business Development Factory Automation, and Cronin, Director of Global Business Development Food, Beverage, and Packaging, to help us discover more insights on this important topic. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen. All right, so Mark, let's get us started. Would you please provide just a basic summary of what digital transformation is and some of the benefits that it can provide?
Absolutely. So digital transformation is the implementation maybe of smart sensors, retrieving data that you may already have within your machines, and driving to new outcomes, improved outcomes of your business. So taking that data, implementing monitoring, dashboards, setting that data to people who can react to it, and understanding our machines and how they're operating.
It's a great jumping off point. Thanks, Mark. Okay, now Corey, shifting to you, can you elaborate on how that can help empower the workforce?
Sure, the empowerment really comes through data enablement. So collecting all this discerning data from sensors and from the machinery and equipment gives operators, maintenance people, and operations personnel the insights they need to make decisions real time. What's going on with the line? What's happening with my production facility? What do I need to do to improve my throughput and my output to impact not only my availability for my products for my customers, but also drive efficiencies in developing those or producing those products?
That makes sense. Now, understanding that better insights can lead to more data-driven decision-making across all operations, Corey, can you provide us a few real-world examples of this in action?
Sure. I mean, we could talk about, for example, maybe a packaging machine. Let's, for example, since we're at PAC Expo.
We're here at PAC Expo.
So let's talk about a packaging line. When you look at the line, I mean, a common KPI that's normally measured is overall equipment effectiveness. So from a digital transformation perspective, we're now able to bring, through our technologies, that information live for the customer to make actions upon. So on a packaging line that's not maybe running efficiently, we've got more downtime. What are the reasons for those downtimes? I've got smart devices now bringing up that information and displaying and giving those operators or those maintenance people or those operations personnel the insights they need to make decisions immediately so we could drive efficiencies with that equipment.
Excellent points made there. Shifting back to you, Mark. Now, when we're talking about unlocking trapped data being the first step, what do we mean by that?
So if I'm operating my equipment, I may have a packaging line that has varying ages of product, maybe of equipment. Maybe I've replaced one machine because of capacity, maybe I've replaced a machine because of its failure. But each piece of that equipment is having its own control architecture, its own PLCs, and that data is working the operation of that equipment, but we're not being able to pull all that data out of that equipment. So entrapping the data is being able to connect to each of those pieces of equipment, pulling the data from any control architecture and putting it into a central location. So we can really get a rich understanding of what's going on with that piece of equipment.
Freeing that trapped data. Get it out of there. Corey, how does that help empower the staff and enhance behaviors then?
Sure. When you're able to contextualize that data, putting it into a meaningful format where the data is organized in a fashion where an operations person or a maintenance person or a production supervisor can make actionable decisions upon it, you've really empowered that whole operation to become more efficient and more effective.
So Mark, I'd like to hear your perspective on that same issue then, and maybe a specific use case where manual efforts were reduced by doing that.
Absolutely. So I think one use case is around compressed air and how we've been able to use a lot of our intelligent sensors with a lot of CPG customers to really understand the utilization of compressed air within their equipment. So when things are at idle, when things are starting to leak, and get people to be engaged with that equipment, fixing those leaks prior to them becoming a big problem causing downtime in the future. Obviously, if we can predict when things are starting to leak, predict failure, we can start to put people in the right places at the right time to prevent that being a catastrophic failure of that equipment.
I can see how that would be really helpful, so that's great. Corey, can you share some information about multimedia monitoring and how digitalization can provide benefits within that process?
Sure. So multimedia monitoring is another common term for one that's maybe industry known as wages, meaning water, air, gas, electric, and steam. So through that monitoring, we could provide customers a means of looking at what Mark mentioned before, the AF2 module as far as air consumption on a piece of equipment and how that calculates back into energy consumption. We could also do things such as electrically looking at power consumption on the machine. So I start getting a complete picture from a electrical consumption and air consumption. Maybe there's water on the line or steam being utilized. We could look at all those instruments and pull that data up and give them a view of what their electrical consumption or energy consumption footprint looks for that line. Then when you think about bringing that across the enterprise and looking at multiple lines, that enables them to say, where can I run more efficiently? Or where do I have a machine that's maybe using too much power or too much air, and make decisions as far as driving efficiencies there on that piece of equipment.
A lot of valuable uses there.
Absolutely.
With that process, yeah. So then are there specific solutions available to help the workforce be more proactive rather than reactive when it comes to monitoring?
Sure, absolutely. When you look at, we'll go back to air consumption. When you look at air consumption, when you typically start up a brand new piece of production equipment, you know from how the machine is sized what its consumption is going to be. As you get more runtime on that machine and you get wearing parts, it's going to start becoming less efficient, using more air. So that's a prime indicator to tell that operations person or that maintenance person that, hey, something is not quite right with the line. I need to do something from a preventative or predictive maintenance perspective where that data is going to tell me what to do. So it's giving us guidance on becoming more efficient before it's a catastrophic failure.
We always want to be proactive.
Absolutely.
So Corey, now that we've established a greater understanding of how digital transformation can be empowering in this case, can you provide more details on how Emerson's floor-to-cloud approach supports this process?
Sure. So we've been talking about, I'm going to say the floor, the devices at the floor. Through our solutions, we give you the ability to take that information, not only up through the PLC to then an edge device, where that information could then be stored up to the cloud. It could also be reported through open architectures or open software like Grafana, where I could see maybe an enterprise type of display or dashboard of what my consumables look like from a wages or multimedia perspective as well. So we've got from floor to cloud, meaning we provide that information at every layer through the enterprise.
And then in what ways does that impact operational performance?
It gives you a look as far as where are my inefficiencies so I could take action to drive improvement. So it goes back to the old adage of continuous improvement. And this really gives you frontline insights into what's going on with my equipment.
Great, awesome. Thank you, Corey, for providing that perspective. We'll shift back to Mark, give you a little bit of a break there. Mark, I'm sure when some hear the term digital transformation, they get a little nervous, right? It's a big buzzword right now. How does Emerson help alleviate and address some of the common challenges associated with it? And what are the key elements that are necessary to make it successful in that transformation?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of our customers today, the best way to start is small. So instead of having a massive project to capture information from everywhere, that can be data overload. So by starting smaller segments, understanding the business outcomes that you want to achieve and planning that digital transformation journey around them allows you then to plan, start at one machine level, maybe one line, and then start to scale fast. So all of our solutions, our products are around maybe a pilot, and then being able to scale that to other production lines, other facilities within my organization, mainly maybe in the US, but also globally as well.
So we talked about the digital transformation, starting small, scaling fast, and then we know sustainability is a big factor here. So how is that vitally important, and how can this digital transformation help support those efforts of sustainability?
Sure. So a lot of our focus has been around multimedia monitoring. So customers, as Corey said, are using steam, water, compressed air within their facilities. A lot of our customers have net neutral goals today. So we are actively helping them achieve those net neutral goals. An example I think we've talked about at the AF2, compressed air, is really understanding is that air being utilized correctly when that machine's being used? Is it being lost due to leakage? Is it being wasted when that machine is not creating revenue? Those are the things and highlights we can provide a customer to really understand not only compressed air, but again, steam, water, really understand, are they utilizing that media correctly in their operations?
That's great. And then back to you, Corey. One of the ongoing issues throughout many industries is a shortage of skilled resources. Can you tell us how this can play a role in addressing those issues and the ways that Emerson can help mitigate those challenges?
Sure. The digital transformation isn't just about what we think about as operational data as far as how the line is running, but it also could be guidance to new operators, new technicians as far as how it's supposed to run. So I've got historical information now that I could pull into a screen that tells that operator, this is where this machine should be running from a parameters perspective. Am I in the range? Am I in that green zone, so to speak? And through that information enablement, the ramp time of bringing people up to speed on being effective as an operator or a technician or an engineer is shortened. So that's where the benefit really comes into play.
Fantastic. All right, well, we're reaching the end of our discussion here. Before we finish up, I want to hear from both of you on this last question. Can you please provide some insight on where Emerson is guiding the industry as we look towards the future? We're always looking towards the future of digital transformation, and what types of software, hardware, and devices are offered by Emerson to support this growth? Who wants to kick it off? Mark?
Absolutely. We have a range of intelligent devices which allow us to gather more data from the specific medias that we talked about, for instance. We have the edge technology, which can collect data not only from those intelligent devices, but for that trapped data that we talked about as well. And again, that really does give you a rich data set of what's going on with that piece of equipment. And from there, we can take that, put it into our package software, for instance, create local dashboards. If we're looking at a facility or a global level of our operations, we could use Movicon to look at that. That's a piece of software or software suite that we have. And then again, that ability to put it into a historian, into the cloud, wherever the customer needs to get it. It's really about the empowerment of that data, collecting it and putting it into a position where our customer can use it.
That's great. Corey, anything to add?
I mean, I think to add something that's also looked upon as far as where's that data going, not only from a reporting or dashboarding perspective, but how do I tie that back to my financials? How do I tie that back into my enterprise resource planning, architecture, and software? Can I take that data and really start looking at real time? What's my cost of goods sold? What's that look like real time with what I know about how my input costs are, what my energy costs are, what my labor costs are. Now I've got that data enablement to really give the management structure of those organizations direction on what they should be doing and what actions they need to take to drive further efficiencies in their operations.
A lot of exciting stuff going on at Emerson. We thank you both for joining us to discuss it today. Well, that's all we have time for, but I want to thank both our panelists, Mark Densley and Corey Cronin, for helping us gain a better understanding of how digital transformation can play a pivotal role in empowering the workforce. And special thanks to our audience for your interest and attention. And for further details on this topic, just go to emerson.com, where you can learn more about the role Emerson plays in helping you reach your efficiency and sustainability targets. Thanks.